All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. I have two things I'd like to discuss with you here today. I hope that some way, somehow, that it either, number one, discourage you, or number two, brings about an inspiration, or at least understanding in moving forward and going forward. You know, all the time in life, no matter where we go, we're either going to find ourselves under authority or in authority, either way it goes. And usually, the way that life works, we usually have to find ourselves usually under authority before we can actually be in authority. In other words, in order to be a good leader, I'm talking about a real good leader, you must first become a good follower. That way you will learn how to lead. And of course, you know, many people have never had any professional experiences whatsoever at all in any aspect of life, and they just assume because they can read a book, or they can pray, or they can fast, or they do this, or they do that, and never had any experience with men whatsoever at all, that they automatically assume and they think that they are good leaders without the experience, but that's not true. First of all, number one, you need communication. Communication is the exchange of flow of information from one person to another, and it's paramount that you communicate. That's one of the biggest things I say about marriage counsel. Communicate, 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 communicate. That's pretty much what it's all about, is communicating, because, you know, there's so many things that go on that cause you to stop communicating. And that's when the devil comes in and he starts playing with people. Then there's leadership. Leadership, the exchange of leadership. Leadership is the process of being able to influence men in such a manner in order to accomplish the task, the mission, the endeavor, or whatever you may have. And most people don't have those type of leadership traits and qualities. There are three different types of leadership styles out there, and I guarantee you that most people don't even know what they are. And because you're not familiar with either one of these terms, communication and leadership, it's very difficult to communicate with people who have never ever been under authority and has never been in a place where they had to submit. That's one of the things I can say about the military. You know, whether you be in a private getting ready to head to the NCO Corps, or you be a junior officer, butterball, lieutenant heading up into being a major officer or something, like, you know, when you're dealing with butterball lieutenants and captains, railroad tracks, you start getting into the senior levels, major, lieutenant colonel, and colonel, you start getting into the upper echelon. Same way with the actual enlisted in itself. You have a private, and you head all the way up to sergeant first class, master sergeant, and then sergeant major. Man, boy, this stuff starts slipping my mind. But either way it goes, you have a beginning point, a set point, a starting point that you must start at in order to advance through the other stages, and it's just not handed to you. Now, you can be in a place in time and then get rank handed to you, but that only happens for just a short period of time, because when you start getting up into the NCO Corps, you have education, you have things you have to do for skill points, you have points, promotion points, you have schoolings, you have all different types of things you have to do in order to obtain the necessary promotion points in order to reach the next level. And then you have evaluations. And it's just not handed to you the same way. It works the same way. Time and grade gives you options and stuff over someone who has little to no experience at all. And that seems to be the epidemic that we have here in America, because, you know, being outside, you know, I was in a very disciplined unit, the 82nd Airborne Division. You know, that's a very disciplined unit. See that plaque up, 82nd Airborne Division, along with the AA on my hat. Not only that, but I was in the Joint Readiness Training Center, which was another highly disciplined unit. And the only way you got to those units is you had to actually pass certain schools in order to get there. And then once you got there and stuff, you had a level of expectation that you had to maintain. You had a level of discipline you had to maintain. And you couldn't be lackadaisical, because it would actually cost someone's life. So you had to be some kind of man in order to get to that place. Same thing with Special Forces. That's why less than 1% of the Army is actually SF, because you have to be some type of quality of a soldier in order to be there. And once you're there, you haven't arrived. You have to maintain that level of discipline. You have to maintain that level of training. You have to maintain that level of high intensity training. Not only that, a mental capacity the whole entire time you're in there. There's no such thing as you've arrived and then you drop off. No, now much has been given to you, more is expected and required. And that's what we're missing in this generation more than anything. We've got people who desire within themselves and fancy themselves and believe themselves that they're this or they're that, or they have the ability to do this or that, but little to no experience whatsoever at all. Last thing we all want is a fool trying to lead us in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And so that's the reason why it's important for you. You pay attention to those who have tenure, those who have time, those who have experience and understanding. You need that in order to go forward, because not only that, their life in itself is a testimony to where they're at. You don't become a lieutenant colonel or colonel in the military simply because you sit on your 4-point of contact and you did nothing all your life. You don't become a sergeant major or a master sergeant in the military simply because you think it's just due to you and stuff. No, that's a selection process, and people got their eyes on you and they're watching you. Same thing in the Most High. You know what I mean? You've got certain criteria, and you know, when the Bible says you look out among you and you find 7 men of honest report. When Paul told Timothy, you go and look out in these cities and you ordain elders, and he's giving them prerequisites. He's giving them situations to look at, ethics to look at. You have to look at certain morals about the people. There's a resume that has to be out there, and it must be met in order for these people to be entrusted with the household of faith. And of course, most people that have a lack of humility simply because they're prideful and they can't submit to godly authority because they've never been able to submit to authority themselves. They understand little to nothing, if anything at all, whatsoever at all, about actually walking this life out in faith. The lack of humility is amazing. But it is utterly amazing that some of us out there, we have what you call professional jobs. We can be on things 20 and 30 years, and we can submit ourselves to everybody that's over us in authority, and we cheese up to them, and we give the Gentiles their due, the Goyim their honor, and we give it to them left and right with no compunction, no problems, no back talk whatsoever at all. As soon as we leave that environment, we head off into the kingdom, or we go to church or assembly, whatever you want to call it, then all of a sudden we think that we don't have to submit to anybody. We can do anything we want, but that's where you're sadly mistaken, because he's got to be a pretty piss poor leader to let you run him over, and he's got to be a pretty piss poor leader to let people just have it their own way. You know, you have to be a pretty strong leader. I mean, a really strong leader. In order to be a good, strong leader, you have to lead by example, because men, they follow strength. Men don't follow titles, they follow strength. You can have a title all day long, and yet if they don't see no strength in you whatsoever at all, they will despise you. And vice versa. So will leaders do the same thing with people who's just not fitting the bill. It's just human nature in itself. I hope that some way, somehow, brought some form of education here into your life here at this short period of time today. I've been rapid firing videos out here, and I tell you what, we're getting it done. We're really getting it done. But hey, y'all be at peace. King Cotton. Have a good day.